Welcome back to Fight Night Rewind. This is Cypherbox here on Keep It Real Boxing. Okay, look, want to catch up on obviously this weekend's action from Saturday night. Great card, great fights, plenty to talk about. And you know, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Hurd versus Lara. Okay, as you know, Jarrett Hurd was victorious on Saturday night against Lara. He just about edged it in a very close fight between the two men. Shout out to both of them. Definitely, you know, a fight that I would probably consider as fight of the year, because you know that was back and forth between those two, and they gave it everything they had, and you know, really give the fans their money's worth, in my opinion. And you know, all us boxing fans, if you're a boxing fan, there's no way you could complain about that fight. Simple as that. Alright, so how did the judges have the scorecard? So one judge scored it 113 to 114 in favour of Lara, and the other two judges scored it 114 and 113 in favour of Jarrett Hurd. Now that was obviously probably more likely down to the knockdown in the last round, which Jarrett Hurd got in the 12th round. My scorecard was 114-113 to Jarrett Hurd. I thought he just edged it, of course. In my opinion, it was down to that knockdown. If he didn't get that knockdown in the last round, it would have been 114-114 on my scorecard, and it probably would have been on two of the other judges' scorecards as well. Very close fight. And look, if you go back, I didn't do a prediction video on this, well I kind of did. If you go back a couple of months and look at one of my videos that I did regards to the 154 division, I did a review of the 154 division, and I spoke about this fight, because at that time they were trash talking each other over social media. They were then talking that, you know, they're potentially going to have this fight. And in that review I did of this fight, I did say that, you know, it would probably be a really tough fight for Lara. You know, he would get pushed to the limits physically. And that the reason I said that was because if you go back over Lara's career and you go back as far as Angulo, when he fought Angulo is a similar fighter to Jarrett Hurd. The only difference is he's probably not as big and tall and rangy as Jarrett Hurd. So that gave Lara the ability to still box and move a little bit and use the ring and use his ring savvy. And if I remember correctly, he got knocked down twice in that fight against Angulo. I could be wrong, you can correct me if I'm wrong in that. It's been a few months since I watched the fight again, but I know he definitely got knocked down once. And you know, the reason that fight, Lara won that fight, you know, to be honest with you, was because the fight was stopped by the referee, you know, in the corner, because Angulo had this hematoma growing on his left, above his left eye, and it was absolutely massive, and there's no way he could have continued with the fight. But again, in that fight, you know, Angulo's physical presence, the way he fights, walking forward, walking down his opponents, trapping him in the corners, trapping him on the ropes, yeah, and then just teeing off, caused Lara some difficulty. You know, Lara had a lot of success. He was still able to box, move, use the ring. Unfortunately, against Jarrett Hurd, that approach wasn't going to work. The first two rounds, I definitely felt, you know, Lara won those first two rounds. He boxed, he moved, he used the ring, and then round by round, you know, by the third and fourth, you know, Jarrett Hurd had started to close the ring off, started to trap Lara on the ropes and in the corners. Don't get me wrong, Lara was amazing. It's the most aggressive I've seen him in a fight. I think it's the most aggressive Lara fight I've ever seen, performance I've ever seen, and he was brilliant as well. I mean, there were moments where he was boxing beautifully, moving, and then what happened was, you know, Jarrett Hurd's his physical presence and that reach of his and that height of his would just be maybe a little bit too much, you know, in the latter part of the round, or you know, throughout the entire round, and it took a lot out of Lara physically, you know. So it slowed him down and he couldn't move around the ring like that anymore. He had to stand there and trade toe to toe with him most of the fight, which was great to see, don't get me wrong. Shout out to Jarrett Hurd. You know, his you know, a lot of people probably don't give him enough credit. You know, yes, he has a basic come forward, you know, I'm willing to take a punch to land 2 or 3 punches of my own style, but it's effective and it works. And because of his size, his physical presence, his reach, you know, he's able to break down his opponents systematically and then win the fight. Like I said though, in this fight I felt it was a seesaw fight. It went back and forth between both fighters. Both fighters put in a great effort. Personally, if it wasn't, like I said, if it wasn't for the knockdown, it would have been a draw on my card, 114-114, and I'm pretty sure on the other two judges as well who scored it in favour of Hurd would have seen it as 114-114. We probably would have seen a majority draw. But great fight. You know, I want to see a rematch. Bit disappointed with what Hurd said in his interviews, you know, with other YouTube channels and stuff like that, where he turned around and said that when he was asked about a rematch with Lara, and he said no rematch, you know, there's nothing left to prove, I've proven that I'm the man and stuff like that. And yes, at the moment you are the man, but I think there's still, you know, I think Lara deserves a rematch if Lara wants it. You know, I think Lara's now, 34, so whether he can take another beating like that in a ring and have that kind of fight, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But if he wants it, I definitely think, you know, a rematch is needed. You know, you won that fight because of the knockdown, in my opinion. I'd love to see it again. As a boxing fan, I would love to see that fight again. You know, who wouldn't? It was a great fight, great performance for both men. Shout out to both of them. Erislandy, Lara and Jarrett Hurd gave us a great show. That's all I really got to say on that. I think it was a great fight. Okay, so let's move on to the co-main event, where we had a rematch between James Degale and Caleb Truax for the IBF Super Middleweight Championship of the World. Obviously, Caleb Truax won the first fight, making him the world champion, and James Degale was the challenger trying to get his crown back. Now, let me just read out to you guys the scorecards. So the judges had it 117-110 to Degale. Another judge had it to 114-113 to Degale, and another judge had it the same 114-113 to Degale. Now, my scorecard was 115-113 to Caleb Truax. I think Caleb Truax just edged it. I scored round 6 as an even round. I couldn't decide between the two of them, so I scored it even. And let's not forget there was that point deduction in round 10 for James Degale for pushing his opponent. You know, he had been warned earlier on and a few times in the fight about that, and the referee in the end took a point away from him. So that's how I came with my 115-113 score to Truax. Now, I thought it was a really close fight. Again, another close fight. I felt Caleb Truax just did enough. I think there were rounds where I felt where James Degale, first of all, you know what? When I talked about when the first fight happened, and after the first fight, I did my post-fight video on it, analysis of it all, and I said in the last fight, James Degale did not utilize his jab enough. It was non-existent in that first fight, and that's what made it easy for Caleb Truax to close the distance between him and Degale, cut off the ring, and just tee off on him. You know, and it won him the fight in the first fight. In this fight, I would, if I did a prediction video, I would have said he needs to throw the jab a lot more. Everything comes off the jab when it comes to James Degale. His style of boxing, the movement, the way he uses the ring, the way boxing movement style of his, it's all off that jab. If he doesn't have that jab, it's a problem. And he used the jab on the night, but I still feel he didn't use enough of it, and that's what allowed Caleb Truax to have the moments of success he did. You know, I felt there were times where he rushed James on the ropes, and he would throw a 1-2 landing on it. Even when James Degale would duck down, he would go down and throw his punches down to land on James Degale's head. Even the inside work, I think, you know, the commentating in my opinion was completely biased. It was one-sided. Over there, you probably had the Showtime in the US. You probably had Showtime. Team Marlon RG and all those sort of people. We only had one commentator. He was a US commentator, but I felt he was quite one-sided and biased in his view of the fight. I felt Caleb Truax, you know, I think he missed a lot of quality work from Caleb Truax to the body. When he was inside, he did sneaky little 1-2s to the body, sneaky little 1-shots to the body. And I think sometimes there were some moments where James Degale, he had rounds where he was given rounds, but all he did was move around the ring and pop a jab at once in a while. Whereas Caleb Truax would land with a 1-2 to headshots, 1-2 combinations to the head, little body shots. Even when James Degale was moving off the ropes, he'd catch him with a jab or a right. You know, I just felt in certain instances, Caleb Truax in certain rounds just did enough to win those rounds and nick those rounds. It was a close fight, but I just felt Caleb Truax did a bit more than James Degale, and he in my opinion was a guy who should have got the win. I definitely think there needs to be a rematch. You know, James Degale was asked at the post-fight interview in the ring, and he was asked would he give Caleb Truax a rematch. And he said, yeah, if he wants to, he said yeah to it. I personally think Caleb Truax should push for a rematch, maybe bring it back to the UK. But in terms of the fight itself, like I said, I felt James Degale at times was moving around the rings in a lot of rounds and just flicking out the jab. He wasn't doing enough to win those rounds, whereas Caleb Truax was landing nice clean body punches, 1-2s to the head, even when he ducked low James Degale to avoid those sort of punches. It was, there wasn't a lot in it, but I just felt Caleb Truax basically did enough to win the fight. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Brit, so I was supporting James Degale. I wanted to see him win the fight. I was disappointed with the result of the first fight. Naturally, I told you, when it comes to fight night, my patriotic side comes out, and I want to see the Brit win, and I did want to see James Degale win. But I just felt, fair is fair. You got to give credit where credit's due, and I feel, from my personal point of view, I just think Caleb Truax did enough to win the fight personally, and I definitely think Caleb Truax should push for a rematch. And really scream about it over social media. What fighters do today, until James Degale says, "All right, fine, I'll give you another fight," because I think he deserves it, personally, in my opinion. Okay, so let's talk about the undercard fight between JRock Williams and Nathaniel Gallimore. Judges' scorecards read 117-110 to Williams, 116-112 to Williams, and then one judge had it an even draw, 114-140. And I don't know where he got that scorecard from, but JRock Williams won his IBF elimination fight against Gallimore. Now the mandatory challenger to Jarrett Hurd. Okay, so I think Williams fought really well. I scored it myself 118-111. I couldn't pick. Again, I had an even round in this fight, which was round 6. Got to think for round 6 on Saturday night. But I scored that even. But other than that, I saw JRock win the fight quite clearly, in my opinion. He was very clever in what he did. Now, if I remember right, Gallimore had the reach advantage, so he boxed well, used the ring in the first few rounds. Gallimore started to get his jab off a little bit, started using that reach, and I think he was just smart in the way he boxed. He picked up on that, and he closed the distance and started to crowd Gallimore's work, and made it very difficult, very uncomfortable for Gallimore to work and to get his shots off. He would crowd him, hold, there was a lot of holding, don't get me wrong, that was going on as well. But then what he would do when he wanted to work, he would take that little half step back and start teeing off body shots, combinations to the head, etc. and stuff like that. And he did that pretty much all the way through the fight. Just took away Gallimore's advantages in terms of reach, and made it his fight. The ring generalship was just great. The way he pretty much dominated Gallimore, in my opinion. Personally, my scorecard tells you that as well. I don't know what that judge was seeing in terms of 114-114. I didn't see it like that at all. I didn't even see it as a real close fight. I think Gallimore had his moments, but that's all they were, moments. And it's quite disappointing as well. You know what? When fighters talk a big game, or a big fight, and they hype up the fight the way Gallimore was with JRock, when you talk shit, when you talk smack, you got to be able to back it up. And in my opinion, Gallimore, he didn't. JRock was, it was a really good performance by JRock. You have to give him that. Williams put on a good performance, boxed well, boxed smart, used a lot of intelligence. Use smarts to take away his opponent's advantages and make him and allow himself to benefit from that. So like I said, he crowded him. He made it uncomfortable for Gallimore at times, frustrated Gallimore, and then when he had his opportunities, he would take that little half step back and then tee off. But even from distance at times, that jab, etc. 1-2s, body shots. He mixed it up really well. I felt he boxed really well. A lot of people are questioning whether JRock Williams can be a force to be reckoned with at 154. A lot of people are saying no because of his loss to Jamel Charlo not too long ago, where he got knocked out. My opinion, it's one of those let's wait and see what happens. Yes, rightfully so. You got Hurd, you got Charlo. Obviously, Lara is potentially still there and about. Don't know what he's going to do going forward, whether he'll come back and ask for a rematch. Then you got Saddam Ali fighting Liam Smith here in UK's Liam Smith for his WBO version of the 154 title. Maybe JRock could pick up a world title, I don't know, but even sometimes when I look at him, I just think, sometimes I feel maybe he's at best, he may be a gatekeeper. You know, one of those really good fighters that you love to watch, who does put on performances, but when he goes to that elite level within his own division with those boys, that's when he struggles. You know, could he beat Jarrett Hurd? You know, you look at Jarrett Hurd's performance against Lara, I don't know, I would probably favour Hurd in that fight. Definitely I would favour Jamel Charlo again if he fought Jamel Charlo again. Lara, don't know, again, maybe not. You know, it's a hard one. I think, you know, he'd probably have a better shot against the winner of Saddam Ali and Liam Smith. Maybe that's a route he will want to take, but he's just won an IBF eliminator, so I don't know whether he wants to give that up and try and chase the WBO title down. But we'll have to wait and see. But he is a good fighter. You know, I enjoyed the fight and I thought he put on a really good performance. Okay guys, well that's all I got for you on this one. Just wanted to do a quick catch-up video on this weekend's action and give you my thoughts and opinions and my scorecards as how I saw the fights. Hope you enjoyed the fights this weekend. As always guys, like, share and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.